All right, how you guys doing? How you guys doing this morning? Hey, hold on. Just want to say thank you to my man, Jesus. Give it up for Jesus. He's awesome, and he's a slick dresser, so we love him. How you guys doing today? Great. Good. I'm so glad. I feel like it's a little back heavy on this side over here. That's all right. I can project, and I'll try not to spit too much. Man, it's exciting to be here. I'm pumped about today, and we had an awesome first service. We had a good time in there, and we're starting a new series today called Vision. Vision. And vision, basically to see, the capability to see how God sees. We want to be able to see the way that God sees other people. We want to be able to see how God sees a lost and dying world. We want to see how God sees our city, and we want to see how God sees ourselves. And so that's what we're going to be doing this month. It's going to be a very, very special month, so you don't want to miss any weeks this month. If you have a vacation scheduled, go ahead and cancel that. And I'm not even joking around. You don't want to miss this month. I just want to tell you something. I want to put it out there. I believe with my whole heart that we as a church, as New Dawn, we are on the verge of seeing a powerful move of God like we have never, ever seen in the history of our church. And I believe that. I've said that before, but it's not something I am making up. I believe it with all my heart. And I believe that you're going to be a witness to this. You're going to be a part of it. This is a very exciting time to be a part of New Dawn Church. So we're glad that you're here and glad that you're a part of our family and that you're involved. And we can't wait to see what's going to happen this month. Listen, the world needs New Dawn Church. The world needs New Dawn Church more than ever before. Let me say that again. The lost and dying world needs New Dawn Church more than ever before. All right. Don't worry. It started this way in the Spanish service. They got better at the end. So we'll get there. We'll get there. And our church is unique and it's special, and that's because of you sitting in the seats. You guys make it what it is, and I'm so happy and proud to be part of this family. And listen, our city and our community needs you. Needs this right here. It needs your love, and it needs what you can offer. So we're getting ready for what God is going to do. And so we've dedicated the entire month to this, to vision. We want to see what God has in store for our church and for us as individuals and for our families. We want to see what God is going to do, and we want to get on board. We want a vision. And this week and next week, we're going to be building up to that. The third week, it's a very special Sunday, the 20th. You need to be here. We have a very special guest speaker. Not because he's my brother, but because he's my brother. My older brother, Mike, he's one of our missionaries to Argentina. He's going to be with us on Sunday, sharing with us. So you get to come see him and how much I don't look like him. So it's fun. He's awesome. So don't miss that. And then on the last Sunday of this month, the 27th, it's a very, very, very special day. We're having Vision Sunday that day. Cancel anything else you have, and you need to bring everybody and come that day. That day is going to be a very, very powerful day. We believe that God has given us a new, fresh, powerful vision for the future of our church. And so on the 27th, we're going to be sharing that with you. And so you want to be here to see and to hear what's in store and what we believe God has in store for the future of our church, and how we can see him move in that way in our families, in our community, and in our city, and beyond. And so that's going to be an amazing day. It's going to be a fun month. And so get ready. You ready?
Yes.
All right. I don't believe you, but we'll get there. And so we're building up to that. But listen, today we got some work to do. And before we get to that, where we convey what we believe to be God's vision for our church and for the future of this church, there's some stuff we need to take care of first. And so we need to start at the very beginning. Someone once said, a very good place to start. Okay? And so that's what we're going to do today. And I want you to flip over in your Bibles to 2 Corinthians chapter 8. There's no doubt whatsoever that God is going to do an amazing work. No doubt. Because he is God and his will happen. Yes or yes. Right? The question is not whether or not God is going to do a work. The question is whether or not he will do it through us. And so what we want to do as a church collectively is put ourselves in a position to where God uses New Dawn as a vehicle to do something incredible for his honor and for this glory, and that will impact our city like never ever before. And I hope that you will begin praying for this month and for the last Sunday of this month to see what God can do. So let's start here. Let's start in 2 Corinthians chapter 8. This is the Apostle Paul writing to the church in Corinth. And so we'll read it, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. I'll give you some background, some context, and then we'll unpack it, and we'll hit the ground running. Let's start reading in verse 1. And it says this: "And now, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given to the Macedonian churches. In the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity." Pause for a second. Does that sound strange to anybody else? It's kind of a paradox, real quick, and I just want to mention this real quick, but it jumped out at me as I was reading this, how it says their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. It sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? Like that shouldn't be the result of the other thing. But it's amazing what God can do when you put something seemingly worthless in his hands, isn't it? That's for free. Let's keep going. Verse 3. "For I testify," Paul's saying, "I testify that they gave as much as they were able." And this is the verse I want you to know. This is the verse I want you to hang on to. We're going to be revolving around this. I'm going to finish reading, but hang on to this verse. He says, "I testify that they gave as much as they were able, and even," what? "Beyond." To infinity and beyond. Thank you. "Even beyond their ability, entirely on their own. They urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in the service to the Lord's people, and they exceeded our expectations. They gave themselves first of all to the Lord, and then, by the will of God, also to us. So we urge Titus, just as he had earlier made a beginning, to bring also to completion this act of grace on your part. But since you excel in everything," he's talking to Corinth now, and he says, "in faith and speech and knowledge and complete earnestness, and in the love we have kindled in you, see that you also excel in this grace of giving," like the Macedonian church. I want to, for the next 31 minutes, to talk to you about capacity. Everybody say capacity. 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 Have you ever convinced yourself that you were not capable of doing something, and so you just didn't? Put your hand in the air. Think about it for a second. Come on, be honest. And so when someone asked you to do that, or if you could do that, your response was, "No, I don't do that," or "I can't do that." I have many times. "Can you help with this?" "No, I don't do that. I don't do that." And really, if someone were to ask you, "Well, have you ever tried?" You'd be like, "No, I never tried. I know that I can't. I know that I can't do it. I've never tried it because it seems like beyond my capabilities to do," right? So I don't have the capacity to do it. And you don't know that because you've never tried it. The truth is that I believe that many of us are withholding capacity or don't reach our full capacity because we have convinced ourselves that we can't. or we don't. And what I want to tell you is that it's not have anything to do, it doesn't have anything to do with the actual capacity, whether or not you're capable of doing it, but it kind of goes beyond that to something else. And I once heard someone say, that we should be content in our capacity, which to some extent I guess is true. I mean, I know what they were trying to say. You need to know your limitations, know your strengths, know your weaknesses. That's important. You should know, what your limits are. And otherwise, you will drive the worship leader crazy, constantly begging him to get on stage and sing when he knows good and well that ain't your gift, all right? So you need to know your limitations just to save at least the worship leader some hassle. And it may not be singing. There may be other things that you are not physically capable of doing or within your skill set. And so I get that. I get that there are limits, and you should know your strength and your weaknesses and your limits. But I also believe that the problem is that most of us never really find out what we are truly capable of, because we always kind of fall short when we're faced with any kind of seeming limit or any kind of closed door or any kind of a hassle or trial. We often say, well, this must be as far as I can go, or this must be it, or I'm probably not meant to go any further, right? Because it looks hazardous up ahead. So I'm just going to park it here, and that'll be it. This is my capability. I've reached my capacity, and you will never really know because you've never taken the step to actually see what you were capable of. And it all sounds vague, but I'm going to try to land the plane in a little bit, and it'll make more sense. Hang out with me. In order to find out what you are capable of, the extent of your capacity, you have to challenge it. Your capacity has to be challenged in order for you to find out what you're capable of, right? If you're climbing a mountain, it's work. It's tough. There's a struggle involved. There's a challenge involved. But if you don't face the challenge, you will never find out if you are capable of reaching the top. Are you with me? And it's that way in every area of life, especially the Christian life, especially when it comes to something that God may be wanting or calling or putting on your heart to do. It's the same in the business world. It's the same in every area of your life. You will never find out the extent of your capacity or what you're capable of until you are willing to challenge your capabilities. And that's just a principle for life. If you're willing to challenge your capabilities, you will find that in many areas you are capable of much more than you thought you were. Have you ever been in that situation where you didn't think you could do something and someone just pushed you, someone brought you along, and you were crossfitting it or whatever, and that I can't do it, you're throwing up, or no, you can do it, let's go, and they pick you up, and you finish it, and all at the end you're like, oh, I didn't think I had it in me. And you found out a whole new area of your life that you were capable of doing something you didn't know you were capable of. Church is the perfect place to learn so many things that you're capable of that you had no idea. Because a lot of times when you come to church and you volunteer or you sign up to serve, it's in an area that may not be in your wheelhouse or may be an area that you never thought that you would enjoy. It never even came to your mind. And once you get in plugged in, you're going, hey, I'm good at this. I could do this. I have a capability for this. And so that happens all the time. It happens all the time. Which, shameless plug, get involved. You might not know what you're capable of until you get involved in church. So sign up for something. Volunteer. Get your orange t-shirt today. Have you ever convinced yourself that you just can't do something? And so you don't. Years ago, as I grew up and I started to explore options about what I wanted to be when I grew up and what I was good at, which wasn't very much other than getting in trouble. And and being distracted most of the time. And so I was good at a few things. I was good at music. I had an ear for that since I was little, and so I kind of took to that pretty easily. And I love playing soccer, so I just wanted to play ball and do music. I mean, at first I just wanted to be a professional soccer player. I mean, who doesn't in Argentina? That's what every kid's dream is, right? For the most part. And so that's what I want to do. When the music thing got a little more serious, and I started uncovering, the fact that I love the guitar, and I picked that up, and I was like, well, maybe I could be a soccer/rock star, right? Soccer player. That's like, hello, that's the best of everything, right? Soccer player, professional. Come on, that's amazing. And I went with it, not knowing what direction, but that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play ball. I wanted to rock out. And so when I went to college, I went to a little Christian college, and I studied music there, and I did that thing, and I played ball while I was doing that, and I did well doing that. But then I had an opportunity, and I had to make a choice. So I hung up the cleats, and I grabbed the guitar strap, and I pursued music. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do music. And if you were to ask me at any point in my life, hey, would you come and speak for us? Would you come and maybe share a little bit at a youth thing, or don't even mention the word preach, because it was taboo. That was like poison. No way, no how. I don't preach. I said that so many times I can't even count. Hey, can you come? No, sorry, I don't really do that. I don't do that. Now, I knew what it looked like. I grew up around it. I mean, I knew what it sounded like, but that's not what I did. I sang, I played, I did my thing. But if you asked me to come I would have told you, I don't preach. Do not do it. I don't preach. Until Pastor Rudy had this cruel and unusual punishment one day and said, I need you to preach for me. And he wasn't even out of town. He was just doing it, I don't know, just to put me on the spot. And he sat there, he's wanting to listen to me. And that was almost 14 years ago. And well, you know how the story ends up, I imagine. At this point, you're putting two and two together. What I discovered was, I had no intentions of preaching after that. Or that I would even, but I said, okay, and I did it. And what I discovered is that God woke something up in me that I didn't know was there. That before that moment, I would have told you, I can't preach. I can't preach. I don't preach. But it wasn't because I wasn't capable of preaching. It had nothing to do with my capabilities. The fact that I told you I don't preach or I can't preach had nothing to do with the fact that I was capable of preaching, which I did not know I was capable because I had never done it. And so I didn't do it, and I told you I wouldn't do it until I did it. And God woke something up in me, a capacity that I didn't know was there. And so all of a sudden, what I once proclaimed that I didn't do and couldn't do, I found myself doing and enjoying. And today I love it. I don't think I'm very good at it. My mama likes it. Probably about it. But I love it. And as long as people aren't throwing stuff, I'll probably keep on doing it. You never know what you're capable of until you do it. You may never know. But if you make the decision to say, nah, I'm good here. I'm comfortable here. I don't really have a need to go any further. I don't do that. This is what I do. This is where I stay. This is my life. This is where I live. You may never find out what you're capable of. And here's what I want to tell you today. In this room, there are people capable of doing incredible things that you don't even know you can do yet. Because you have convinced yourself at some point that you can't, or you won't, or you don't. And usually when you say you don't or you can't, what it really means is I won't. Right? When you say I don't do that, it means I won't do that. What's worse is maybe someone else told you you couldn't, and you believe them. If you're like me, you struggle with insecurity. I have my whole life. And so it doesn't take much when I do something. It doesn't take much to get me all freaking out. All it takes is like one person to come to me and be like, that thing, that one part, that didn't come over so well, or, you didn't communicate that well, or when you were singing that, I don't know, you messed up on that part. It does not take much for me just to come crashing down and to tear my world down. It really doesn't. And that sounds crazy, but that's just how I am, my personality. But what happens is, if you will believe other people, it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing how quickly we will believe the opinion of one person over what God is trying to say in your life. How the voice of one seemingly insignificant opinion will dominate your life enough to prevent you from reaching your full capacity. Won't it? Some of you have been carrying that blockage since you were young. And maybe it was a parent who said, no, you don't need to be doing that. You're not very good at this. Maybe it was another person who said something, this is not for you. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. And so your whole life, you've been believing, I can't do that. I can't do that. That's not what I do. That's not in my capabilities to perform. I cannot do that. And it's because someone told you you can. But you don't really know. You've never tried. And I'm here to tell you, you're capable of much more than you think you are. And if you will just take a little step in trusting in who God says you are, what He wants you to do, you will be blown away by what you are capable of. You can't even imagine what you're capable of if you will just be willing to trust a little bit and take a little step. Bless you. But it has nothing to do with your capabilities, whether or not you can do something. What it does have something to do with is your conditioning. The fact that I said I couldn't preach or didn't preach had nothing to do with my capability to communicate and preach. It had everything to do with my conditioning. What is conditioning? When an athlete goes to partake in an event, he has to be physically conditioned to compete in that event, right? How many of you are going to watch Mayweather and McGregor? Where you at? Come on, fighter fans. I'm looking for somebody to come over who's going to buy the fight so I can come watch it. That's all I wanted to raise your hands for, so I can see who's going to. All right? Mental note. I'll hit you up after service. In order for these guys to prepare for this world championship boxing match, you better believe that they are conditioning their bodies to get ready for that fight, don't you think? No one doubts their capabilities of fighting. In their own right, they're both champions. Now, whether or not they're ready for that fight depends solely on their conditioning, mental conditioning, physical conditioning. Whether or not you are capable of something is not really the question. Whether you are conditioned for it is the question. Are you open and prepared to undertake that capacity? And so you believe what other people tell you. You believe what you say to yourself. You can't do it. There's a lot to be learned in the Christian life about capabilities and capacity. And there's nothing that Satan wants more in your life is that you don't reach your full capacity for Christ. That you don't reach your full potential to do what God has built you and made you and formed you and created you and equipped you to do. And anything short of that is a win for the enemy. And it happens so often. So often we give it up before we reach our capacity, before we reach our capabilities, before we even know what we're truly capable of. We stop. We give up. You know, people come to church and they want to be changed, and they'll show up and they'll sit here and they'll say, "Man, I need God to change my life. I need something, different. I need a change." And the whole time they're begging for change, they don't want to be challenged. They want the change without the challenge. Well, guess what? No challenge, no change. You cannot have change without challenge, and you cannot reach your capabilities and your capacities without being challenged, without some sort of change going on. So you've got to welcome a challenge in your life, because to reach your capacity, it demands a challenge. To get where you're going, you've got to overcome something. Otherwise, the alternative is what? Stay exactly where you are. Don't try anything else the rest of your life. Just do what you do and be good with that. Now, I don't know that anybody would raise their hand if I said, "Who wants to never do anything or try anything ever again?" Right? But while nobody would raise their hand to that, a lot of us in here live in that cycle every day. Frustrated, miserable, depressed, because we just feel like there's more. I feel like there's more out there. I feel like there's more in me. I can't seem to get out of that funk. I can't seem to get past this, whatever it is. And most of us are capable of so much more than we're doing right now. We just got to be willing to face the challenge to get there. No challenge, no change. You may be like, "Oh, I'll come to church. I'll take notes. I'll even volunteer once a month. I'll do that. I'll do that." But that whole tithing thing, that's not for me. I can't do that. That's not for me. It's a personal thing anyway between me and God, right? So you shouldn't be able to tell me what I can and can't do. So I'll do the rest. I'll show up. I'll get involved. I'll even raise my hands during some songs and stuff like that I like and get emotional. But when it comes to the tithing thing, nah, I don't do that. I don't do that. Me and God, we got understanding. Right? That's funny. You see, the challenge for me as a pastor is that people come in and claim they want to hear the Word of God, and they'll come in and sit here and hear the Word of God. But you come in and you've already set your limitations about what part of the Word of God you will believe. And so you come in closed-minded and cap and put a lid on the capabilities that God has set in front of you. If you walk in with a list of things you already won't do, then chances are you're never going to discover what you're capable of. You with me? You got to be open to the challenge. You got to be open to the challenge. Listen, this message is not about money, and that's not where I'm going with this. It just happens to be the passage is directly about money, so you can't help but address it. So I'm going to address it a little bit, and I didn't mean to, but I'm going to anyway, so you'll be all right. I'm going to suggest that you would start there. If you want to see, now listen, don't miss, if you want to see what you are truly capable of and what God is truly capable of in you and through you, start tithing. Step one. If you're not willing to start there, then you need to do a gut check. Because God don't care about your money. He's rich. He's good, right? And he sure doesn't get a thrill for our alms every other week. That's not what he's after. You're not doing anybody any favors. Listen, It's not very popular for a pastor to say, we don't need your tithe. I would never say that, just in case you take it literally. But listen to carefully what I want to say. God doesn't need your money. God wants your heart. And if you're not willing to face the challenge of trusting Him in this area, you will never see the full capabilities of what He can do in your life in this area and how He can fulfill promises in this. And He will, and He has, and He will do it again, and He will continue to do it. How many are witnesses that God delivers on His promise when you tithe? Put your hands up. Look around, everybody. Look around. How many have lived it when you got too much month at the end of your money? And how many have gone, I don't know that I could afford to tithe right now. It's tithe. I mean, we're paycheck to paycheck, and I don't know. I don't have the capability or the capacity to do that right now. But if you're willing to take a step and do what you can do, then God will lead you another step further. And He will never, ever, ever, ever leave a promise undelivered. Ever. How do I know? Because I've lived it. We've lived it. Our family. We can testify that God is faithful when you trust Him. And He's a little better at managing money than you are. I'm not saying you're not awesome. I'm just saying that He's God, right? So He knows what to do with His money. And He knows what you need. And He knows what you're capable of. But a lot of times we don't realize what we're capable of until we learn to trust Him in the areas where we struggle, in the areas where it's a challenge for us. And in some areas like serving or volunteering may not be a challenge for you. But you'll never know what you're capable of until you're willing to tackle the area that's a challenge. No challenge, no change. No challenge, you'll never reach your full capabilities. But I promise you this, if you're willing to tackle this challenge and take that one step, that's all, just start there. Try it out, see how it works. And then come tell me whether or not God exceeded your expectations and exceeded your capabilities. Every time. Every time. It's a promise. So the question is this. Why not find out what you're capable of? Why not? Turn to your neighbor, tell him, why not? Why not? Don't you want to know what you're capable of? Don't you want to know what you've got inside you that you haven't let out yet? Don't you want to know how far you can take it? Don't you want to know? Say, yeah. I want to know. So why not? Why not? What's the alternative? Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And disregard it completely. But I would venture to say that no one here seated would be content just doing what you're doing ever for the rest of your life. You do want to know what you're capable of, and you do want to see what God is capable of through you. So why not? It's time to challenge ourselves a little bit. To find out what we're capable of. You're capable of a whole lot more than you think you are. If you're willing to face the challenge. Verse 3 says, for I testify. Paul says, listen, I'm not making this up. You can take it to the bank. I can testify to this, that this is true. This is true. They gave as much as they were able to give. Now, how much are you able to give? Not specifically, I'm just saying. What you're able to give is what you're able to give. Theoretically speaking, you cannot give more than you are able to give, correct? If you're able to give something, that's the extent of what you're able to do, correct? logically speaking. But listen to what he says. They gave what they were able, so they gave to the fullest of their ability. Like, here's what we got, and we got no more. That's what that means. And he says this after this. This is why this is so amazing. They gave everything they had, and even beyond their ability. Tell me how that's possible. Once you give everything you've got, once you meet your capabilities, how can you go beyond that if that's all you have? You're forgetting something. There's a God factor in here. Did you notice that he continues verse 4? He says they gave themselves first to the Lord. You see, something happens when you give yourself to God and you give all you've got. You meet your capabilities. You meet your capacity. What God will do is something incredible. Listen, don't miss this. Here's what God will do. He will take everything you've got and you meet your capacity, and he will take you beyond your capabilities. That was a pretty good place to say amen. Just saying. God will take what you have, and he can take you beyond what you thought you were capable of. And it cannot be explained sometimes, like in this situation. That's why he says, I can testify to this, because he knew this ain't going to sound real to a lot of people. So let me just put out there, okay, I'm Paul, you know who I am, and I'm testifying that this is real. This happened. These people gave everything they had, and they were dirt poor. The context is this, is that Paul was raising some money to send to the church in Jerusalem who was going through a hard time. So he was raising money from all these different churches in Europe and in nations, all these different places. People were sending in money, and Paul took these churches in Macedonia who were just poor. They had nothing, tiny little groups of people who had nothing. And he said, listen, I know what you're going through right now, and God knows your heart, and he understands. Listen, it's not necessary for you to send money. Paul tells this church in Macedonia. He says, listen, no one is going to judge you. Like, we know what you're going through. And God knows it's okay. You don't have to do this. And they turned to him and said, no, I don't even think so. I don't even think so. We're a part of this, and we're going to do something. Don't rob us of this blessing. And so they did. He said they pleaded, they begged him so that Paul would take the money that they had to give him. They begged Paul to take the money. And they gave everything they had. And God stepped in, and they were able to do above and beyond what anyone thought they were capable of. It's incredible what God can do if you're willing to meet your capabilities, your capacity. Just give it all. God will take what you have. And it may not seem like a lot. God, I don't have a lot. This is what I got. But it's yours. What God will do is he will take that and he will turn it into something incredible. And he will exceed your expectations every time. And he can do something beyond what you thought you were capable of, to the point where you have no other explanation but that was straight up God, because I didn't have it. I didn't have it. That's beyond my capabilities. And God will step in every time if you're willing to trust him, and if you're willing to empty out your capacity. Give him what you got and let him do the rest. And he loves that. So why not find out what you're capable of? Why not find out what God is capable of with a group of people in New Dawn Church who want to see his name made famous in this city? So what are we capable of? History is filled with stories of people who overcame, people who were told, who were told they were nothing, who were cast down, who overcame, underdogs. We love underdog stories, don't we? Around the turn of the century, there was a young kid, grew up in Kansas, and he loved drawing. He loved painting and just stuff like that. And he was told by an art teacher that his stuff was terrible. that he did not have a talent for it and he should give it up because he wasn't going to do anything with it. Thank God that little kid did not throw his brushes and his pens away, but he kept working and he kept drawing and he kept painting. Otherwise, we'd never be able to go to Walt Disney World because his name was Walt Disney. There's a story like that in the Bible. There's lots of stories in the Bible. You know this one. This little kid saw something going on he didn't like, something that wasn't right. He decided to do something about it that was way beyond his capabilities. And what do people tell him? Well, listen, that's nice of you. That's noble of you and everything. You're a kid. You're not a warrior. You were not built for battle. Look at you. You can't even wear the armor, man. Seriously. You can't do this. You physically cannot do this. Had David listened to everybody else, it would have been a way different story, wouldn't it? And it all starts with a person and a group of people who's willing to look at themselves and go, let's find out what we're capable of. Let's find out what we're capable of. I'm not okay with just this. I'm not okay with the way things are right now. This is not good enough. Let's find out just what we're capable of. Don't you want to see what we're capable of? Say, yeah. Yeah. New Dawn Church, what are we capable of? What are we capable of? Undoubtedly, and I get it. Some of you may be thinking, man, I don't know how we're going to fill that building up. I mean, look around you. We barely fill this thing up half the time, and so, at the same time, you've never invited anybody to come with you to church either, right? What are we capable of? I don't know. I've heard people tell me, man, I love this church because it's just a little family and the environment is so like tight-knit and personal and intimate. And I just want to, what's wrong with you? You're a little family. This is God's family, and he wants to see his family grow by the millions. So if your intention is to join a little house on the prairie family, you're probably in the wrong place. I ain't kicking anybody out. I love you. But God is going to move in this place. So get ready. They started with what they had. They started by doing what they could do. And they ended up doing what they could not do. Isn't that crazy? So what are you capable of? Start with what you can do, and then watch God take you into something you can't do. Watch what he does. Start with what you can do, and he will give you the capacity to do what you never thought possible, that only he can do. The only limitation that our church has is our imagination. The only lid that we have on our church growth is our own imagination. This is God's church, and he is a limitless God. You mean to tell me, look me in the face and tell me that this is the best we could do, New Dawn? That this is the way it is for the rest of the life of this church? I don't even think so. I don't think so. Are you okay with that? Because I ain't. I'm ready to see God move in a way like we've never seen him move before. I'm ready to kickstart 3 and 4 services, 5 services because we can't pack them in. I'm ready to see campuses all over town because we can't pack them in. Who says we can't have campuses all over? Who says we can't go to South America, to go to any major city and go to a New Dawn campus? Who says we can't? Who says, why not? Why not? God does not have limits. And so his church doesn't have limits except what we put on it. And I'm telling you right now, if we will position ourselves in the middle of what God is going to do and wants to do, you better hang on. You better hang on, because we are going for a ride. I want to be a part of that. Don't you? I want to be part of that. And years from now, you're going to look back and tell your grandchildren, I remember that, August 27th, 2017. I was there. I was there when they were still meeting in the house, when God lit the fuse of that church and blew it up. I was there. I was a part of it. God forbid that we continue the same way year after year after year without seeing what we are capable of and what God is capable of through us. We are the only limitation. Let's put ourselves in a position to where God can take us. Let's be the vehicle that God uses to transform our city and then the world. Why not? Why not? I can't serve. I can't volunteer. I got this thing. I can't do it. I can't volunteer. I can't go. You know, when y'all go, so I can't do that. I can't go any trip. I can't go. You know, I can't give. Can't give. I mean, I feel bad, you know. If I could, I would. You ever said that? If I could, I would. I'm sorry. If I could, I would. But I just can't. If I could, I would. If I could, I would is what people say when they have no intentions of helping you whatsoever. What that means is, if I could, I would. It means that I really could absolutely do it, but I totally do not want to do it, so I'm not going to. That's what that means usually. If I could, I would. You hear that all the time. If I could, I would. But enter faith. Put faith in the mix. Faith says something different. You may say, if I could, I would. Faith says, if you would, you could. If you would, you could. Faith flips it upside down, doesn't it? If I could, I would. No. If you just would, then you could. Say it with me. If you would, you could. Tell your neighbor, if you would, you could. If you would just take a step, you might find that you very well could. If you would tithe, you'd find that you could tithe. If you would serve, that you would find that you could serve. If you just would go, you will find out that guess what? You could go. It starts with a step. It starts with a challenge. And anything worth doing, in any capacity and capability worth reaching, is worth the challenge to get there, isn't it? If you would, you could. New Dawn, Ephesians 3:20 says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within who? Us. To him be the glory in the church, in New Dawn Church, and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. To him, who this church belongs to, who we belong to, who is able to do immeasurably more than we could ever ask or even imagine. So once you find out what you're capable of, let God go to work, and then he can show you what he's capable of. Pour yourself out, and then watch him pour out his power and his blessing on your life and on this church. Why not? Why not? New Dawn? Look at me for a second. Don't miss this. Why don't we find out what we're capable of? Let's find out just what we're capable of. Are you with me? Let's find out what this church is capable of doing. It's going to be a challenge. Absolutely, it'll be a challenge. I don't think any of us are afraid of challenges, are we? Bring it on. Let's find out what God can do in this place, through this place, with this place. If we're willing to open ourselves up and say, God, whatever. It's not about me. This is not for me. We're not building that for us. We're not building that for me. We're not building that for our comfort. We're building that so that God can show us what He's capable of. And I want that so bad. So my challenge is this. Would you begin to pray today that we may see what we are capable of, so that we begin to position ourselves individually in our Christian walk to face the challenges, to see what we're capable of, see what we're made of, and in turn, collectively, to see what God is capable of. We've seen it happen in other places. I see it happen day after day in other churches, in other places, in other cities, and I'm going, why not us? Why not? Let's find out what we're capable of. Let's find out. Start with what you can do, and then God will show you what you can't do, and He'll show you what He's capable of. Let's see. Stand with me for a second. And can we read this verse once again? I want you to read it with me. Read it like you mean it. Read it like you believe it. Read it like you claim it, like you're prophesying that it's going to happen, because it is. I want you to believe it. I want you to pray it, and I want you to take it home. And next week, we're going to hit it again as we put ourselves in a position to see what God is capable of doing through this church and through our lives in this city and from this city to the world. Ephesians 3:20, you ready? Now to Him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work in us, to Him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen.